Y'all, Wizard101 has already given out a response regarding the Bazaar situation that everybody is freaking out about. For context, right, a couple of days ago, I put out a video talking about something that a lot of people had already been talking about, and that's the Bazaar revamp in test realm. Right now, I'm in live realm. This is probably, honestly, something that is in desperate need of, like, a revamp, and they added a new user interface for the Bazaar that actually lets you sell stuff in a much more streamlined way. However, one of the things that they also did with this revamp was to actually increase the amount of max copies of any one item that the Bazaar can hold. Now, more stuff for more people doesn't actually sound like a bad idea on paper, but one of the inadvertent consequences of it that a lot of people notice right away, when you have a lot of copies of one item, it reduces the cost that you can sell it for. So right now, right, in live realm, empowers are capped at 100 max in the Bazaar. When that's the case, you could sell one empower TC for 800 gold. But this max copy limit in the Bazaar revamp, it was put up to 1,000, meaning you could actually, if it really reached that max value, you could only sell empowers for 100 gold. The immediate short-term consequence of this is, if people stockpile various treasure cards, various snacks from similar sources, if they stockpile those as a way to sell for gold and to go beyond the gold cap, this basically became dismantled with this Bazaar revamp. Now, the response, I actually really appreciate how thoroughly they responded to this. Right away, they said what their intention was, which I think was, you know, I don't think this was something that I was really questioning, right? They're trying to increase the supply of stuff. I think when you have a 100 cap, it basically makes it so that things that are in high demand during short-term events, it's very hard to get. I'm sure y'all have seen this, right? Like, let's say there's an ice decathlon or something. You'll notice that fire TCs are almost impossible to buy for that entire week. During periods of high demand, the Bazaar was not keeping up. So I do think that is an issue that I'm glad that, you know, at least they tried to resolve. They didn't intend to target or even acknowledge, based on their own words, like the empower black market, the economy around a high volume TCs that sell for a lot of gold. I didn't get the impression that they were going after the black market, by the way. I think in the video it was pretty clear that I was just annoyed at what the consequences of this Bazaar revamp was. If at any point it seemed like I was accusing them, I want to clarify that. I don't think they're going out of their way to target specific communities. I think they have better things to do than that. But the reality is, there will be consequences, right? Things that the majority of the player base within and outside this empowered black market that's become a huge topic, they're going to be affected by this. It's harder for them to get gold using the methods that they do right now. So what are they going to do about it? It looks like they are going to be reviewing the table. They clarified again that a lot of these, like, you know, values that are tied to number of copies, like this was based on, like, you know, scalers and stuff that were developed way early in Wizard101's development. That's a fancy way of saying, right, the cost of an empower is actually pretty arbitrary because it was made, you know, around the values of empower years ago. So for players, you know, concerned that they were targeting the black market around empowers or, you know, anything like that, or they were targeting people to try to make them, like, you know, buy gold with crowns, those are stupid and they're conspiracy theories. I'm just gonna say that right now. If you really believe that, I don't really get that. And for the people that wanted a concrete, you know, response to a lot of what we've been saying, the good news is what it is in test realm right now is the worst of the worst, and it's gonna get better. They said they're gonna review this price table. I'm very curious what the end result is gonna be, and hopefully it's something that doesn't make it so hard to get gold even using the current methods, which is like things like gardening for snacks that sell for a lot, maybe, you know, gardening to get TCs like empowers that sell for a lot. Right, at the end of the day, I don't want it to be like impossible to train a pet or stuff like that, and I think what it was in test realm would have made it way harder. But let's actually talk about the issues that they do want to tackle based on the conversations they've had with players in the Discord. Right, the devs have been very transparent about this. To them, it does seem like gold is in a very unhealthy situation right now. Even though there is a gold cap, essentially there isn't a gold cap, because once you hit your 500k, the rest of your gold, you can just store it essentially in empower. Let's say that I was rich and I didn't have 10,000 gold. Let's say that I had 500,000. At some point, you're going to use that gold to just stockpile empowers. And people have been doing that as a way to circumvent the gold cap. And what that does is, right, when you see a lot of people at the gold cap and increase the ways that they can spend gold, what you create isn't actually a healthy flow of gold. You just create an upper class of wizards just based on who stockpiles empower. This is an angle that I personally didn't look at it like that. This is not a perspective that I really have have because I never hit the gold cap. I am constantly buying TCs for PvP, and I probably think that's why I don't really farm for gold either. I just garden and hope for the best. As someone that doesn't hit the gold cap, that idea didn't really hit me, and I do think it kind of does make a lot of sense. Gold is essentially getting inflated, and they do need to deal with that in the long term. Otherwise, the prices of things will always get so high. And they even alluded to the fact that probably a lot of the reasons for things like high costs in monstrology, high costs of pet hatches, because of the inflation of gold. Now, is that the most resounding argument for me? I see, if let's say that pet hatches were actually tied by code to things like the way the Bazaar moved and the amount of gold that was being spent, then yeah, maybe it would appeal to me. I do kind of get the argument, like they're setting prices based on how much gold people tend to have. And when people are hoarding empowers and other things that they can sell at a high volume in a Bazaar setting where it's capped at 100 max copies, I do see why they have no choice but to make things expensive. Raising the gold cap doesn't actually fix that issue if you really think about it. So at some level, they probably do have to tackle how people hoard gold in Wizard101. Another argument that the devs made is that when you have, you know, it's not like they're targeting the black market around empowers, but when you have stuff like that, it is possible to scam people, right? You could just charge way more empowers than something is worth, and because you're the one who controls the market, essentially, you could basically do that. Or in the worst case scenario, you could have someone trade you empowers with the expectation of giving you something, but there's nothing in game that forces them to trade you something back, right? Or sell something in the Bazaar for you to buy, right? Like, you could basically make an agreement off game. There's nothing in game trying to like that necessitates that you have to, like, you know, go through with an agreement. I'm conflicted on that argument a little bit because while one, I do think that most of the time, I don't think the empower market or something, I don't really think it hurts players. I actually think it opens up options as you go deeper into the game. My issue with the Wizard101 market and stuff like that, especially like when you have to go outside the game, I think people are incentivized so much to get stuff of value that it encourages and incentivizes botting in the Bazaar. That's actually my issue. I would argue that that's actually the biggest driver of the inflation and everything else that the devs are concerned about. Yet people that are basically using non-human things to like rack up empowers and anything of value, and they can just keep on doing it if there's nothing that stops them. They did say they're gonna try to address bots as well. I honestly think that's, if in my opinion, that's where I think they should start. Assess how that affects inflation and everything like that. And then if they are going to increase the amount of copies of things that the Bazaar can hold, I would rather they start small in terms of how it affects prices instead of just so severely limiting what things sell for. What I would also hope happens as a result, the prices of things would need to come down, right? A pet hatching price, it would need to come down. If their argument is that gold is inflated, so everything else is inflating in price, great. Then if you're gonna do something to prevent inflation, things should come down in cost as well. I feel like a goddamn whiz economist, and that's not something that I signed up for, but hopefully at least a takeaway for people is this is a nuanced issue. I think they did something in the Bazaar with the intention of helping people. It just made something else happen that obviously people validly are annoyed about. The good news is it is test ROM. We should talk about both sides of this, right? Access to gold and the fact that there are ways to hoard gold, which will never be healthy in the long term for the way gold is spent and gotten in this game. Let me know y'all's thoughts on the devs' responses. I'm actually really thankful they did respond to this so quickly. And in covering this, obviously, I don't want to take away from the other parts of this update. I still think it's one of the greatest updates Wizard101 has ever put out. So big that they did things that I was skeptical were even possible of doing. I can't wait to start spell fusing and doing all kinds of things in PvE and PvP, so turn on noties so you don't miss any of it. Let me know what you guys think of the whole Bazaar situation, the devs' response to it. As always, drop a like if you enjoyed. I look forward to reading all of y'all's comments. Stay awesome, y'all. See y'all soon. And yeah.